YouTube. All right, we got kind of a sad but serious topic that I'd like to talk about today. Was just watching YouTube, and a couple days ago, one of the local channels, might have been ABC, I don't know. One of the news channels did a story about homelessness in Florida on the rise due to the cost of housing prices. And I don't think it's just a Florida issue. I think it's a nationwide issue with the United States. But Florida is taking a big hit because Florida, was a retirement state. So typically people came here to retire. And now the housing prices that are here have skyrocketed. And even rental has gone up. The picture you saw, the thumbnail there, that was the house I used to have. It used to be my house before my nasty divorce. And I lost everything. But that house I had bought back in I think it was 1989. At the time, I bought it as a Fannie Mae foreclosure. So I bought it at a discount at 50, I think it was like 56, 57,000. I knocked it down, but I told them I'd pay them 59, and then they gave me $3,000 money. So I bought the house and got $3,000, and I used the $3,000 to renovate the house before I moved in. I got a new refrigerator, carpeting, and all that other stuff. But anyhow, that house in 1989 was valued at roughly $90,000 to $115,000 was what the going rate was for a house in that area. So it's about $90,000, $100,000. The same house right now is probably $270,000 to $300,000. That same house. It's because prices have gone up, nationwide for the whole United States. But what's really hurting right now is the prices are increasing exponentially across the country. So people in like California, New Jersey, all these places, New York, all these places where the prices went sky high on their property have moved down to Florida to retire. And what they did was they bought up all these houses and they were willing to pay premium prices. So that kept driving the prices up. I know back then in 1989, that same house, I was comparing it to a California house. California, at the time, a house like that would be about $1 million. So I don't know what a house like that would be in California right now, but I know back in 1989, it was like close to $1 million for that house or more. So I really, feel for the Californians. You guys, if you've been with me on this channel, then you saw when I visited California and we saw the homeless people there. Well, Florida's starting to become like that. And it's shocking to a lot of Floridians. But see, here's the thing. Florida was always cheaper than other states to live. Used to be. Because people came here to retire, and the pay here has always been really low. Florida typically just pays minimum or slightly more than minimum wage. But the houses here were low. Like, that house that on the cover, on the thumbnail here, that was my house. It was at the time about $90,000, $100,000. But that same house is now $300,000. But I'm willing to bet in California it's probably $1 million or more for that house. But see, the people from California, New Jersey, and whatnot are immigrating or moving to Florida and buying that house for $300,000. That's what's driving the prices up. But where the problem occurs is if you weren't a retiree, but one of the young people who came here to live in Florida, or you were a child of the retirees, then you ended up working in Florida for Florida wages. And Florida wages, like I was saying, is like minimum wage. It's like crap here. They don't pay anything here. So when the prices went up, anyone working here for minimum wage is not going to be able to afford a house. And that's what's happening right now. Because other states, their prices went up, but they see that, if you were in California, you had to spend $1.5 million for a house that looked like the one on the thumbnail, and you can get that same house here in Florida for under $300,000, yeah, you're gonna jump on it. You know, you sell your house, whatever, for $1 million, $2 million, and you move to Florida and buy a house that's the same or better for $250,000, $300,000, and you're retired and you're living very well, you know. But for the people who are in Florida, they're screwed. And that's what's happening in the year 2022. With the pandemic and everything else happening, people are retiring early and moving to Florida, driving the prices up. Which is why I feel lucky that I got my house. Now, for the people who might be coming here because of the title, because they are in Florida and they're becoming homeless, my advice to you is this. Before you lose your home, like if you're in your home right now and you can't afford to pay the rent, or you're about to lose your home because you can't keep making the payments, you need to try to plan your exit strategy before you become homeless. Because once you become homeless, you lose resources. You don't have the ability, like even internet and stuff becomes difficult to get online and try to do all the stuff you need to do to protect yourself. And if you're like living in a hotel, whatever, you know, you have very limited resources. So my advice is, if you're not in that position yet, you need to consider what you can do. And what you can do is this: contemplate a move. I would say, if you can, move to a cheaper area where the housing prices are still low, but they're getting harder and harder to find. Obviously, you can't go to a place like California or New York or New Jersey. Florida, you might be able to still live here in certain parts of Florida, because, you know, it's spreading mostly in the cities, and then heading out towards the boonies, you know, the swamps. But while you still have resources and money, you can try to get a new house. And you might not be able to get the fancy house or the nice house that you had before, but even if you get like a mobile home and some land that you can park on, that's better than being on the street. You know, that documentary was showing people living in a church, you know, some people living in their cars. And basically, you don't want to be to the point where you're living in a church or living in a hotel room, because if you're at that point, it's harder to get out because you have less resources available. Like if you're having to pay for a hotel room, it's like $500 to $700 a week. So you're paying like $2,000 or more per month to live in a hotel room. That's enough to make a payment on a house. And you're like, well, you can't get a house for that in Florida anymore. No, you can't if you buy it conventionally. But if you look into what I did, which was tax deed sales or foreclosures, you still might be able to do it. Although it's getting harder and harder because the investors, the big groups of people coming, you know, with lots of money are buying them all up. They're buying up all these houses, even run down broken houses are being bought. And I know the Floridians are freaking out, but that's what they did in California. And it has to do with greed, you know, which is messed up. And cities aren't responding because they don't allow like small homes, you know, tiny homes and stuff. They need to, because we're letting people like get a mobile home or something and put it in their backyard without too much hassle and let somebody rent it out, you know, without giving people a hard time, because people are working and can't afford to live, which is messed up. But like I said, if you're not in the position where you're already homeless, I would recommend seriously trying to get yourself into a situation where you can buy a tax deed home or a foreclosure, or moving to a different location, whether it's a different state or a different, possibly even a different country. Like that's really the only option left for Floridians. You know, if you're a person who worked all their life in Florida, means you didn't earn a lot of money compared to the average person who works in California or who works in New York or even Chicago or other places that pay more. That means that your retirement opportunity is another country, because, or maybe moving out to Idaho or something, you know, Iowa, I don't know, North Dakota. I know it's maybe a big drastic change from living in Florida, but those are your options, because you can't afford to retire in Florida if you worked in Florida. because, you know, if you were the average worker, not one of the big companies that have moved you here, and because the new people coming in, they all have more money because they're coming from up north. And I feel for Floridians because, you know, basically Florida is now starting to experience what California has been experiencing for the last 10, 15 years. And then once it hits Florida and you see a lot more homeless people in Florida like you do in California, it's going to spread across the entire United States. You're going to see it everywhere. And even those poor, you know, those cheap homes that I'm talking about, they're going to become not available because they're all going to be taken up. So my advice for you, if you're in Florida or anywhere else right now, in a situation where you know you're about to lose your home because you can't pay it or whatever, it's going to be doing something that some people would say is unethical, but I would say stop making your payments. I know it seems bad, but you're going to be kicked out anyways. Like you know you're being kicked out and you can't afford to keep making the payments, like whether it's a mortgage or whatever, it's too high. You're going to lose it. So what I would say is stop making the payments, save that money, and then fight the eviction, fight all that, you know, and then take the money that you're saving from not paying the mortgage, whatever you owe, or the rent, or whatever that you can't afford, because they keep jacking it up. I know people say it's wrong, but we're talking survival right now, because people who are being forced out, like for example, my wife and I, you know, a couple years back, we actually rented an apartment, and then the next year, because of the price going up on everything, they just jacked it up like $400 more. The rent went up $400 in 1 year. And, you know, the rent used to be like, I think it was like $850 or $900 was what we were paying for a 2-bedroom apartment. They jacked it up to like $1,200 or $1,400 or something like that in 1 year, which is ridiculous. Our pay, our salary didn't go up that high to bring us to $400 more a month in payments. And I'm sure it's even higher now. So I think like a 1 or 2 bedroom, let's go with a 2-bedroom. A 2-bedroom apartment around here in my area now is probably $1,600 to $2,000. That's ridiculous, because when you look at what the people are getting paid in Florida, you know, they're still trying to start people out at $10.50. They used to start them off at $8.25. Florida has been notorious for not paying enough. And all the new people are coming in. You know, the people say that Florida's cheap to live. It was true in the old days, you know, maybe 20 years, 30 years ago. But now, because of all the northerners coming here, and because they're used to paying $1 million for a junky house, they think a house for $400,000, $350,000 is a bargain. And they have the money, so they pay it. And that drives the prices up more and more. So people get greedier and greedier, and the price keeps going up. And I know some Floridians who sell their house are thinking, oh man, I could make a killing on this. The only problem is when you sell your house, you know, the house that you bought for $70,000, you sold it for $300,000 and you're all happy because it went way up. Now go try to buy another house. And if you try to buy it in Florida, you're going to see the house you sold for $300,000. They're now marking it $450,000 to $500,000. And anywhere else you go in Florida, you can't afford to buy a house. So and then if you try to go to another state, a lot of them you can't afford it either. You're only going to be able to afford it if you go to a rundown old city or something, you know, that is people are moving out of. But that's what's my advice is, if you have the money and you're retired and you have a fixed income, like whether you're disabled or whatever, and you have a fixed income, then maybe you don't need to work. Maybe you can retire early and move into a little town somewhere. Like there was a guy on YouTube who covers like housing, and he was talking about, I think it's South Carolina. They have a bunch of houses that are pretty much abandoned. So you could probably pick them up through the county to tax deed auctions. I would bet for under $1,000. Imagine having a house for $1,000 or $2,000 where you own the house and the land. Now you're probably going to have to fix that house. It's probably going to be in as bad or worse condition than my mobile home was. But you know, you get in a house for $1,000 or $2,000 with the land. You can pay it all off, and then you can fix it up and live, and you can retire. You know. I know a lot of people don't have that option because they have to stay where they are. But if you have to stay in Florida, it's only going to get worse. And if you don't fix the situation, if you can't get yourself into a more stable environment, you're going to end up like the people in California who are on the streets living in a tent. So, if you wanted a quick strategy, what I would say is if you have nothing else, um, don't pay your rent, don't pay your mortgage or whatever. They're going to kick you out anyways because you can't keep it up, you know. So you get about 3 months, and don't waste that money. Save that money because you're going to need it. If you have no other option, buy a van. Move into a van. And the cities are kind of cracking down on that, but what are you going to do? It's either that or be on the street. So get a van, rig it out so that you can live in it. A lot of my old videos show how to do that. It's a temporary. This isn't a permanent solution. This is a temporary situation so you can catch your breath. But if you can get some money, try to look into tax deed auctions. If you can't get a house, try to buy land in the middle of nowhere where nobody cares. And then you can have a RV, a mobile home, or something towed there, even if it doesn't run. People are getting rid of old RVs and mobile homes because they don't run, or buses. Have it towed to your land and parked there if you're in the middle of nowhere in a little place where the city doesn't care, and you can live in it. I know it's not the most ideal. This isn't like saying, well, this is your dream retirement or whatever. This is a survival strategy until you can get yourself back on your feet. In my situation, I was fortunate that I was able to get a house it's actually in the same county, and in this area is going up. So I was fortunate that I got the house, even though the price, I felt like I kind of overpaid, but I know the price has gone way up. Like, since I've gotten it, the value has gone up, let's see, about 4 or 5 times what I paid, as the retail value in the house. But I wouldn't sell it because then I couldn't afford another house. And I like being in a cheap house because the cost of everything is lower. Taxes, everything's lower. So, and it's completely paid off. That's the other thing. Because if you have to have a mortgage, you're kind of screwed. I see people getting a mortgage on a $300,000 home. I'm like, oh my God. By the time you pay that off, it's like more than $1 million. It's going to be more than $1 million to pay for that house. So you're going to be working all your life, and then all it takes is losing your job or something, or getting ill, and then the bank will foreclose on it. To me, it's better to buy a house that you totally own, even though it's junkier or whatever, and fix it up. Then you can work on your dream house if you want and upgrade that way, But if you try to get into your dream home right away because you have a good job right now, you're counting on predicting your future. And I had, even that house that I bought, it's not really a nice house or anything, the one on the thumbnail, that was my house. It was something I bought that was cheap. I thought I was going to pay it off in 10 years, 15 years, and I had it almost paid off. But long story short, my divorce, I lost everything. My wife had the house pretty much, I only had 1 year left to pay, and she destroyed the mortgage, and we lost everything. So, you can't predict your future. I bought that cheap house because I wanted it to have it paid off, and I knew it would go up in value, and I was hoping to sell it for $300,000, and then I would use it to move to Thailand and retire on that or something. Because in Thailand, $300,000 would be like me having, multiply 300,000 by 30. Whatever that is, that's like, what, 9 million, 90 million, or whatever, I don't know. It'd be like having $90 million or something. It's cheaper for me to live in Thailand, to retire in Thailand. Although, like right now, because of me owning the house in Florida outright, it's actually about the same for me to live here in Florida as it is to live in Thailand. So moving to Thailand doesn't become as much of a necessity as a luxury. Yeah, it's 9 million. Thank you for doing the math, Claire. So, having 9 million, I could retire on that. But, in America, owning your home, see, if you own $1 million home, you have to pay taxes for $1 million house. But if you own a $20,000 or $50,000 home, you only have to pay taxes on a $20,000 to $50,000 home. So, that's something people don't consider, So the cheaper the house you can get, It depends on what you can afford. If you have money, yeah, by all means, get what you want. If you want the nice house. For me, I want peace of mind. I want to know that I'm going to be okay. My wife's going to be okay. My family will be okay, regardless, and it'll be able to keep making the payments. The taxes, not having to pay on the house. And if we have more money, maybe we'll get a better house. But I don't think so. I would save the money for travel and doing other fun stuff, because for me, the house is just a place to kind of like relax a little bit and sleep and eat, and not be on the street. It's not like a luxury or anything like that. But when I travel, if I save all that money from living in a cheap house, I can travel and do all these things that are more luxurious, and I don't have to worry about the government getting my house as a tax deed foreclosure, because it's a cheap house. I can afford the taxes on it, whereas if I had $1 million home, if I lose my job, I might not be able to pay the taxes, or if I go through a nasty divorce or whatever, that put me in this situation, having gone through what I did, I'm more cautious, because I'm in a cheaper house and I'm able to afford it, and I've been working on getting my utilities and stuff down. I have more money available to invest and maybe even get more land, more property, whatever, to grow my wealth, if you want to call it that. But that's not the goal. The ultimate goal is to make sure that within the next 3 to 5 years, I have enough money to retire if I really want to quit completely, and then live comfortably. And by live comfortably, I don't mean just live in the house. I mean, I want to travel. I want to travel the United States. I want to travel the world. And, not as a millionaire or anything like that, but definitely want to be able to go to Thailand, want to go to Vietnam, maybe the Philippines, maybe go to Europe. So you can do all these things before I croak, Let me read your comments here. Hello, Doji. Did you get your patch yet? Hope Bus, good to see you on here. Janet, nice to see you. Janet, you should slowly try to fix up your home. I don't know, maybe start with one room and then expand it out. But yeah, it's definitely worth keeping, because, it's worth keeping unless you have another place lined up where for sure, that you're going to be okay. I know you want to go on the road and you're eager to get on the road, and I would suggest keeping the house even while you're on the road to see if you can really stand being on the road, because, and I know you've had experience. So I don't know what I could tell you other than stuff that you don't know, because you already know most of it, But I would rather have that safety net. Like, even for me, when I'm traveling, I'll keep the house, maybe even rent it out or something, Yeah, see, Idoji says what the parents are paying for in Illinois, they could literally get a mansion with 2+ acres in Kansas with a lower mortgage. But the thing is, if they owe a mortgage, they don't own anything, and then all it takes is losing their job or something, and they could be homeless. That's what people don't think about. It's the great American dream was owning a home, and it used to be something you could do, but now it's like this carrot that you can never reach, because people end up needing money, and a lot of people, what they do is they refinance their home. They take a second mortgage on it, maybe even a third mortgage on it, so that they can have some money, and then the banks end up taking it, or the investment groups. A lot of big investors, big companies, or lots of people pulling their money. People from richer states are moving in. Like, even Kansas right now is somewhat affordable. Places that don't have as many people are more affordable, and that's where people need to start moving out to. I know it. People say, but I can't, there's nothing there. That's why it's so cheap. I'm looking at potentially, if I can save enough money, buying houses maybe across the entire United States. I could have multiple houses. You're like, why would you do that? So if I get tired of living in Florida, I could travel and maybe live in New Mexico or Nevada or whatever, in the desert or something. It's like a vacation home. I don't know. I'm not buying it to invest in it, to resell. I'm buying it so that I have a place that I can go anywhere, and if I wanted to, I could sell it, but that would be the big thing. I might even try to invest in some more homes in Florida, buy some more tax deed houses and resell them real fast, sell them to the flippers, The flippers, they might buy the tax deed homes, if they get into that. But I don't know. A lot of them, it depends on how they finance their money. Because like to get the money to buy a tax deed home, you have to have cash outright. And sometimes the flippers, they don't have that. They borrow money or whatever. They get it from the investors. I don't know how it works. I'm not a flipper. But a lot of times people buy stuff without money. They buy it off credit, so they may not be able to buy from the auctions. So, but to get that money for that auction, how do you get it? Well, like I said earlier, if you're losing your home, maybe know that you're going to lose your home soon. Save the money instead of paying the mortgage or the rent. And then they're going to evict you. So have all your stuff packed, ready to go. And after they evict you, you better have you better be able to secure that new place, because if you keep paying and they're going to evict you anyways until you can't pay anymore, they're going to evict you and you're unprepared. You don't even have a van ready to live in. You don't have a place to go. You're going to be on the street. What happens to people in those cases? They end up in the hotels. They pay by the week or by the day to live in a hotel, which is ridiculous because now you're paying $2,000 or $3,000. That was enough to cover a mortgage, so I don't know. You got to prepare before it hits. And if you're in it after it hits, you're kind of in a bad situation. I would say if you have a car or a van, you're at least better than being on the street. You at least have a shelter, and you've got to get a job, and if you're in Florida, you're screwed because the jobs aren't going to pay much. But I'm in Florida, and I was able to do it, with a little bit of luck and a little bit of help. But basically, save your money. Save your money to buy land or a home, that you completely own. Because you won't qualify for... Now, the thing you can qualify for if you, aren't in the homeless or almost homeless situation, you probably have decent credit. You can use that credit to finance buying a lower, cheaper home, like a tax deed house or something. Get a cash advance and use that to buy the house. Then you can make that payment to pay it off, So those are the things I would recommend is preparing before it hits. Because once you're on the street, you're in survival mode. You're scrambling at that point. You got to do it before you get there. And if you do find yourself there, the only thing you do is, I say, you got to find shelter. You got to get into... If you're renting a room from somebody, that might help for a while. Renting a room instead of renting a whole house. But still, all your money's going to somebody else. It's better to try to use that money. It would be better to save that money beforehand and then use it to buy your own land and your own home, so you're not giving money to somebody else. Because as soon as you pay rent, if they decide to raise the cost of the rent, now what? You're screwed again. Hello, CDC. Hello, 12th man. Grandpa says he's heading to Vietnam in September. Are you going there to visit, or are you going there to move? Yeah, Vietnam is still, I think, pretty cheap to live too. So certain parts around the world are cheaper to live. So if you're in Florida and you have enough money saved up, but you're about to lose everything, you might want to consider seeing if you can move overseas. Now, it might be hard to move overseas depending on which country you want to go to, because some of them have very strict rules. Like living in Thailand, it's very hard. Even if you marry a Thai citizen, you still have to... It takes a long time to become citizen of Thailand. So you still have to leave the country and then go back and visit on a visa, and it gets complicated. But that's one of the reasons I've decided I'm probably not going to retire in Thailand, even though I'm still going to look into talking to the embassy about getting my Thai citizenship back so I can be dual citizen, American and Thai. But because my wife isn't Thai, it can be complicated. So I was like, well, if the cost of retirement for me is the same in Thailand as the United States, I might just go ahead and retire in the United States. And then I might visit Thailand, spend like maybe 3 months of the year or 6 months of the year in Asia, traveling. And then the other 6 months in the United States, relaxing or traveling, depending. So that is my goal for retirement right now. I don't want to... I don't want to retire and be having to just sit around waiting for me to die. I want to retire and still be able to do things, And some people say I'm pretty young. Why am I wanting to retire right now? Because I want to retire while I can still do stuff. I want to wait until, I'm any worse than I am right now. I'm 55, almost 56. My body's falling apart. Things that used to not hurt so bad hurt. Even waking up now hurts. So, I'm just like, it's going to get worse as I get older. So I might as well try to stop working in it and enjoy my life while I can still get up and walk around and climb, hills and mountains and things like that, while I can still do all these physical things. If I wait, 10 more years, I might not be able to walk. I don't know. That's assuming I have another 10 years. Tomorrow's not promised to anyone. So you've got to try to make your life the way you want it to be and plan it in steps that you can actually accomplish. So my long range plan is, to do all that, the traveling. But my short term plan, which is happening right now, I got the house. Now I'm just needing to increase my income. So I may have to invest in some more land and property and stuff to resell. But, maybe even rent. But I don't know if I want to be landlord, because then, people can't pay you because of the situation, or they damage your property. There's also the bad things about being a landlord too. If I got a house, it might be better to just get it and then resell it to the investors, which is kind of bad, but I need money to retire. You gotta kind of look out for yourself. And I can understand where the investors are coming from, because they're trying to look out for themselves and their family and their lifestyle. But it hurts the local natives, if you want to call them that, the people of Florida who lived here all their life. So they never got the job that paid 30, 40 bucks an hour, So for them, trying to retire in Florida is pretty much impossible. 12 Man says, I think it was more the banks dream for people to own a home so they can keep taking their money. I think the banks lie, saying that, they don't like foreclosures and stuff. I think they don't really want you to own it. They want you to think you're owning it, so you're making payments on it. But if you pay cash and you own it outright, you own it. Then they don't get their interest. The banks like it when you take a loan out on it and you owe them, and then they like it when they say, oh, you need more money. You can get it refinanced, get a second mortgage, whatever, on it. So you can start that whole loan process to the point where you can't make the payments. Then they can take that house. So, in other words, what you thought you were paying for the mortgage was actually rent. Jamie is still not getting notifications. Yeah, Jamie thinks I'm shadow banned. Double check, Jamie, that you have notifications for this channel turned on and also notifications for the YouTube app. Make sure you go to YouTube, your account, and make sure you have the notification for YouTube turned on and notification for this channel turned on. And if both are turned on and it's still not giving notification, they're not notifying my viewers. Because, I noticed a huge drop, and a lot of people are telling me they don't get notices. So I irked YouTube off because I started speaking some stuff, which I can't even talk about, because when I talk about it, the video disappears. Only like maybe 10 or 12 people saw my live stream where I talked about certain topics that they're not even controversial, but I can't go talk about it because this video will disappear. I can't even mention it because this video will disappear. And you're like, this video had nothing controversial. But if I mention certain things, my videos disappear because I think they're true. Yeah, Claire says when you're homeless, unstable housing is so hard. When you're homeless, you're scrambling, on a day-by-day basis, and it's hard to get out of that. So that's why I recommend doing stuff that might not seem ethical, like not paying your rent or not paying your mortgage if you're on the verge. I'm telling you, you need to save all your assets, and you need to have a plan so that you're not on the street. Because if you're on the street, you're at the hardest part. It's almost impossible to get back. If you're living in a vehicle, you still have a chance. If you have land and an RV that you can park at, that's better than just being in a vehicle in a city or something, And, some people can only rent a room. The problem with renting a room is they can raise the price on it too, and especially if you're staying in a hotel room, you're paying more than it would cost to rent a house. Janice is laughing because I refer her as an older lady. I'm an old man, so I see myself as an old man. But I think having the asset of the mobile home, you should try to fix it up if you can. And then maybe it becomes like a place that you can rent out. It becomes an asset where you can make money. That's if you decide you want to deal with being a landlord. Of course, getting the wrong renter, they could cause all sorts of problems, and you wasted your money. So there's that. But having a nice home can be cheaper than living in a vehicle. Like it's cheaper for me to live here at this house than it was living in a van. Anyhow, I am going to go ahead and sign out. Just wanted to do this broadcast because I think a lot of people in Florida and elsewhere are now facing homelessness because the cost is so high. This has to do with the people we elect into office and what we value as a nation and as people. When you look up to rich people or celebrities and people with money, and you see money as your number one goal, it makes it so that people don't care about pricing things to the point where it's not affordable for some of the population, and that portion who are on the poorer side is increasing. So it's getting worse and worse, and I don't see it getting better unless people change their mindset and are no longer driven by money. So until next time, everyone, take care. God bless you all. Stay safe. Bye-bye now.